Some of the nation's most fertile farmland is located in the valleys off the central coast of California. I'm Colleen Chen, and on this episode of Foodable Side Dish, we're starting at this farm in Hollister, where they're growing specialty crops for an innovative restaurant in Carmel-by-the-Sea called Cultura. John Cox is a partner in Cultura. So John, let's talk about some of the crops that we have here today that's an example of things that are difficult to source for you.
We've been working with this farm for the last 3 months. So a lot of the crops are just now going into the ground, but we do have a great harvest today that's going to be heading over to Cultura in a little bit. So some of the things that are a little unique is squash blossoms, and you wouldn't think this would be such a hard item to find, but you have to come out early in the morning and harvest them just when they open up so that they have that nice texture and that vibrancy that we're looking for when we cook with them. These are some of my favorite right now. They're called chili manzanas, and this is grown by our farmer. It's a chili that he grew up with in Oaxaca. And I actually didn't try it until I came here the first time, maybe 6 months ago. And it's kind of the same size as an habanero, but it has a little bit thicker flesh.
Is it the heat of an habanero?
It's maybe a little bit, milder. But for me, growing up in New Mexico, peppers aren't just about being spicy. Spicy is one of the important factors when deciding on what pepper to use, but it's also about flavor.
So what is it like for you when you tried this pepper for the first time and are able to grow things that are Oaxacan, but right here in our backyard?
It's a really core part of my philosophy. At the end of the day, it's about contributing to the community, having flavors that are close to home. So while we might grow these chili manzanas, here half an hour from Monterey, it's still an opportunity to give back to the community.
That's awesome. But produce isn't the only thing that you're growing and raising here on this farm, right? Let's talk a little bit about some alternative protein.
The last time we were in Oaxaca, actually the last 2 times we were in Oaxaca, Sarah and I kind of got an obsession with chapulines. Chapulines are little tiny grasshoppers, and they roast them over the comal with lime juice and chilies and salt. And they're almost impossible to find in the US. You can see in this box, we're actually trying to raise crickets and grasshoppers. Crickets are what you find more in the US as far as edible protein from bugs. Because it's sunny outside, the crickets are hiding under these milk crates. This is a box of topsoil, and it has a little metal grate over the top. And over a 3-week period, the crickets will come and lay eggs inside of this box. We'll transfer it to a new box, and if everything works according to plan, in another couple of weeks, we'll have these little pinhead crickets. 30 crickets can easily produce 2,000 offspring.
And that's really what you're working towards, right? We're not talking about eating the ones that are in the box now. It's
exactly
the future.
And we're looking to get a new generation that we can really control the diet on. It's just like escargot or anything else. What you put into the cricket is what you're going to get out. Such an amazing alternative protein, because when you look at something like beef that takes 2 years to produce, it takes literally tons of feed for every pound of meat that we're getting. And then you look at crickets or grasshoppers, it's the same protein content, it's higher iron and calcium. This is almost an inevitable shift in the way that we eat as a culture. And because we do have that Oaxacan influence, it's a great opportunity for us to hopefully teach people about these alternative proteins, but also the main thing is they're delicious.
We're here in the kitchen of Cultura with Executive Chef Michelle Estigoy and John. So what are we making today with alternative protein?
Today we're making a chicutana salsa. When I went to visit Mexico a couple months ago,
wow,
we had these flying ants. If you smell them, what do you smell?
Oh my gosh, it smells like a chocolate, right?
Yeah, really
chocolate
chocolatey.
smell.
I was visiting my boyfriend's family, and they made this salsa really simple. What you do is you use tomatoes and onions, but today I decided to put our own little spin on it, and I put some roasted guajillo, charred onion, jalapeno, garlic, a little bit of chocolate, and a little bit of the chapulines, which I
just ate.
Crickets. And all I did was grill everything, well, except for the chocolate, and added a little bit of oregano, blended it all up, and then we have this paste. It was a flavor that I've never had before, so it's really hard to describe, but it's
It is hard to
tasty.
describe. It's very good, though. What is it like for you to be working with alternative proteins like this?
I'm coming from a fine dining background where, you have your abalone and your caviar, and then seeing these different kind of ingredients that I'm not used to cooking with, and just having fun in the kitchen, trying different things. I hope that people see the love and the reverence that we have for the culture, and that they love our food.
We're now joined by Sarah Kabat-Marcy, who's also a partner here at Cultura, and we've got a tasting board that you offer to guests. Can you describe what's on here?
Absolutely. When our guests order a vertical of mezcal, we offer classic accoutrements, even if it's a singular mezcal, the same items, which would be to enjoy as an intermezzo, as a palate cleanser, and complement the mezcal.
And this really goes along with our alternative protein theme, right?
It does. We actually have chapulines as one of the items on the board. Seasoned very simply, a little bit of chili, lime, and sea salt.
So next, very classic with mezcal is the sal de gusano, which is the worm salt. It's actually a larvae of a moth which lives in the agave plants. And so they harvest these moth larvae, comal toast them, and grind them up with various chiles, which can really range the spectrum of spice. So some sal de gusanos can be a little spicier, some a little more mild, and then there's variations of salt. Oftentimes it's hand-harvested sea salt, ground up, and it has this wonderful earthy, slightly spicy, and then umami flavor to it, which really complements the mezcal.
You seem to really love this.
I really do.
So how does one go about trying the salt?
So what I like to tell my guests is there's no real wrong or right way in enjoying the salt with the mezcal. You can either sprinkle a little over the orange and have a bite between sips, or dip your finger in the salt and taste the salt between sips as well.
Okay, let's give it a shot. I know you have tried it. I've not tried it before,
yeah.
So let's see if we'll get a little. There we go. It's very fine.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It has a very fine texture to it.
So we've got the chapulines here and the worm salt. How does the alternative protein story really kind of complement Cultura's story?
Absolutely. We're offering a unique product, and the education behind that is our goal, to facilitate with our guest interactions. And classic items such as the chapulines and the sal de gusano are complemented with the mezcal, and part of that heritage that we embrace and want to share with our guests.
Yeah, it's really about getting guests to embrace new experiences, something they've not tried before, right, John?
You're right, and that's also applies to us. We want to do this restaurant. We're definitely not self-proclaimed experts on Mexico or Mexican culture, but it's something that we feel passionate about, something that we want to learn about. And when we go, whether it's to Mexico City or Merida or Oaxaca, we're always open for new experiences. And we hope that we bring a little piece of that back home to share with the guests. But at the end of the day, Cultura is really about being a Carmel restaurant. It's about utilizing the products that are around us and the culture that surrounds us, the ocean, but being inspired by our travels and hoping that those inspirations translate to the food and the beverages that we serve.
Well, thanks for joining us on Foodable Side Dish. Let's end with a drink of mezcal. How about that? Salud.
Cheers.